I've been using Home Assistant to power my smart home for about a year and a half. I love the deep customization and the local control, but after my system went down again, I eventually reached a breaking point. I realized I'm the 24/7 IT support for my whole house, and I'm the only one who knows how to use it. I mean, what if something happened to me? My wife is technically capable, but has zero interest in the level of tinkering that I do. And my kids, they're way too young. I mean, Home Assistant is super powerful, but it's like you need a degree in software development just to use it. I got so frustrated I started ranting to Gemini about my situation. I have over 30 Z-Wave switches. Should I just rip them all out and replace them with Lutron? That's what I had when I lived in an apartment and everything was plug and play. You could just forget about it. And Gemini actually pointed me to the Homey Pro. So I said, all right, I'll check it out. And here it is. Look at how cool this thing is. It's sleek, it's disc-shaped, it has a cool rainbow LED. And should that matter for the brain of my smart home? No, but it does. I think it's cool. It looks really nice in the dark too. But there are some things that do matter. Like I don't need a Z-Wave USB stick and a Zigbee USB stick and all these sticks popping out of my device. It has all that built in. Z-Wave, Zigbee, Matter, infrared, 433 megahertz. Now I did have one concern, which is that all of my 30 plus Z-Wave switches are Z-Wave 800. And the Homey Pro only supports 700. But after going through all the positives and negatives, it was worth a shot. I may lose out on Z-Wave long range, but I don't have any devices communicating from a mile away. I'm using the mesh network. And the first few days were a bit rocky. I wasn't sure whether or not I can keep it. But a lot of that had to do with the Z-Wave mesh network and the fact that it needs time to kind of settle in and get used to everything, if that makes sense. But after a few weeks, I'll be honest, it hasn't been perfect. I'm realizing that Z-Wave can be a headache on any platform. And I've had my share of Z-Wave issues on Home Assistant too. The biggest difference is that on Home Assistant, you could take advantage of pro-level tools, such as Z-Wave JS UI, where you can see an entire routing map in every single route, just to name one of its many features. As we're in the Homey developer tools, it's much more basic. And I've hit some hurdles with inefficient routing. For example, I have 4 switches right next to the Homey Pro, yet instead of talking directly to it, it'll bounce to other switches. So unfortunately for me, it seems like Z-Wave is always a work in progress. And although right now my network seems pretty stable, I'm sure I'm going to run into some hurdles. One of the biggest differences I noticed during this setup process was Homey's App Store. What an amazing experience. Home Assistant has their community store, which kind of feels a little all over the place to me. And don't get me wrong, there's tons of apps and integrations and everything you could imagine available for Home Assistant. But some of it can be super annoying. Like Home Assistant discovered my Ecobee thermostats, and when I went to add them, it asked for an API key. So I went on Ecobee's website and tried to get an API key, and it said, we're no longer giving away API keys. And sure, I probably could have found ways around this, but with Homey, I just went into their app store and typed in Ecobee, and there's an app for that. Was that an Apple line? I installed the app and my Ecobee thermostats are integrated into Homey. Same thing with Bond. I use a Bond bridge to control my fans. And I swear the app integrated it so much easier within Homey. And even when I went to set it up, the flow cards were so much easier than whatever I was getting in Home Assistant. It took me a while to program the fan in Home Assistant. With Homey, so much easier. And sure, if you're really into software development and tinkering, and I am, I'm sure you can find a lot more in Home Assistant's community store. But as of right now, I have at least a dozen or so apps that I installed on the Homey App Store, which takes care of pretty much my entire smart home. And so far, I don't really feel that anything's missing. And aside from Bond and Ecobee, there's an app for Zeus for my Z-Wave switches, Sonoff for my Zigbee buttons, Google Chromecast. I have apps for Sonos for my speaker, or Govee for my lighting. I even have a HomeKit controller app, and I use that to install my Miros garage opener. I don't know what I'm pointing at. And for the most part, it's been great. I did run into a few sync issues early on. Like sometimes the Homey app would show that a light is on when it's actually off, or vice versa. And this was both with Matter and with Z-Wave. However, I updated my Homey to the latest software, and that seems to have disappeared. So it's only been a few days, but I haven't had that issue since. So always make sure you're on the latest software. Then I think there's the biggest and most pleasurable change, which is Homey Flows. I know JavaScript and Python, HTML and CSS. I don't need to learn YAML. And sure, I could program Home Assistant using YAML simply by asking Gemini or ChatGPT or Claude or some other AI, and I can say, hey, I want this to happen, please write me some YAML code and I'll plug it in. And if it doesn't work, I'll tell it and it'll spit me out more code. Sure, I could do that, but that's annoying. I don't like that. And if you've ever seen Home Assistant's visual editor, it's the worst thing I've ever seen. I mean, I've built websites and apps. I'm a tinkerer. I'm somebody who has a device and I learn it inside and out. Programming an automation or a scene through Home Assistant's visual editor is so horrible. It's not fun at all. At least not to me. On the flip side, Homey flows are so cool. If I have to program any type of automation, I'm excited because I get to use flows. It's fun. You go into the visual editor, you say, when this happens, then that should happen. And you can draw a line from one to the other. It's amazing. I created a flow so that when my motion alarm turns on, the light turns on. And when there's no motion for 3 minutes, the lights turn off. That was a lot more complicated in Home Assistant. I have one for right here in my office. If I click my switch once, then my lamp turns on. If I double click it, all these beautiful lights you see around me turn on. And it's not only super easy to create these flows in Homey Pro, it's fun. I love it. I don't even have anything new to create and I want to. The experience is night and day. And you know what? If I show this to my wife, it will make perfect sense. And then there's the maintenance. And it's really one of the biggest reasons I decided to switch. With Home Assistant, it feels like there's always an update. Every time I open the app, Home Assistant Core Update, Home Assistant Operating System Update. And if there's a glitch, which happens every once in a while, all of a sudden, my closet motion detector doesn't work. My kitchen virtual switch doesn't work. Anything that requires Home Assistant acting as a brain won't work. And that's probably about a quarter of my devices. And of course, if you want remote access, you have to pay for a Nabu Casa subscription. Not that expensive, but nothing with Homey Pro. It's free. And again, right now, this Homey Pro is running over 30 Z-Wave devices, a few Zigbee buttons, a whole bunch of Matter bulbs, some Wi-Fi devices, and about a dozen apps integrating the rest of my smart home. Fans, appliances, my garage door opener. And on top of that, Homey syncs with Google Assistant and Alexa. So when I sync Homey Pro to Google Home, now I have all of my devices going from Homey directly to Google. It works either the same or better with most of my requests. And when I add anything new, I just ask Google to sync my devices, and it's there. Oh, and I'm sure you could sync it with Siri too. I just haven't tried that yet because I switched to Android. Now I should mention that the Homey Pro is $399 at the time of this video. I'll put a link in the description. As where Home Assistant can be installed on many different devices. If you have an existing computer that's running all the time, you can just install it on that. Or you can get an inexpensive Raspberry Pi, a mini PC. So there's lots of different options there, and Home Assistant will likely be less expensive. So there's that. So was the experiment a success? So far, I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna be sticking with the Homey Pro for this foreseeable future. The reality is I still am having Z-Wave issues here and there, but I don't wanna go ahead and blame Homey because I had issues on Home Assistant as well. And I've spent lots of time researching my issues online, using ChatGPT or Gemini, and who knows, I may eventually just get rid of Z-Wave altogether. Or maybe me and all my AI buddies are just missing something, and eventually I will have the perfect mesh network. But as far as the platform itself, I just much prefer Homey. It's significantly more user-friendly, and it's not some huge, endless abyss of every single feature you could possibly imagine at the cost of being ultra confusing. It's extremely easy to navigate, the flows are super fun to build, and it allows me to focus on my smart home rather than the software running it. I'm not saying Homey is perfect, I'm not saying it's better than Home Assistant, and I'm not committing to never going back to Home Assistant. Who knows? But for right now, I'm enjoying it much more. It's definitely much better for a family of 4 with only one tinkerer, and I think Homey is a great choice for running a smart home. If anything changes, I'll definitely update you. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and I would really appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel for more content like this. And as always, thank you so much for watching.